Talking to Sean Brulman, and powerful testimony of his own personal experience and how he came across the website settingcaptivesfree.com, and now obviously you're deeply involved with the ministry, so things progressed pretty good.
Yes.
Tell us now, what happened? You got the hold of the website,
Right.
and how did the deliverance begin?
Well, it began with the realization that there truly was hope and freedom available. One of the biggest things that people struggle with, or that I had struggled with, is I felt that I was the only one that struggled with this. Yeah. I'm all alone. In fact, if you would have, I actually have a letter that I had written about 8 years ago to another online forum where I says, I know I'm the only one that struggles with this.
Yeah.
And if I was to die today, I would go to hell.
Yeah.
Can someone help me?
Yeah.
I was considering castration. I was considering all these types of things. I mean, there really was no length that I would avoid going to because I knew that this had to go. But I was in bondage, and I just couldn't will myself out of it.
Yeah.
And it was when I came to Setting Captives Free, and I had heard the messages. First off, I heard Mike Cleveland's testimony, and I saw, wait a minute, if God has done a work for him, maybe he can do it for me.
So it puts hope in your heart.
Yes, there was a seed.
People in that situation need to know there's hope.
Yes.
If it can happen to you, it can happen to them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was the initial thing. That was the initial thing that gave me some encouragement, and the belief started to come. See, I had no belief because I had turned to religion. I'd seen the power of religion, and it was worthless. I didn't hear about Christ. I mean, I heard about Jesus, but Jesus was, he died on the cross for my past sins, but I never heard about the power.
Power of the cross.
I never heard about the power of the cross. That's right. That power is foolishness to the world, but to us who are being saved,
it is the power of God.
It is the power of God. And I didn't realize that it really was much more than just something that happened 2,000 plus years ago. It's the power was still available, and it was still real.
Many times people, they understand the power of God just to enter into salvation, but then they don't understand that we can walk in the power of God in a daily life.
Right.
But you came to that revelation knowledge.
Yes.
That God wanted to set you free, set you free even from depression.
Yes.
So tell us about that.
Yes. Well, as I went through the courses, or as I went through the course, some of the teachings that we learned about was the importance of radically amputating that which leads us into sin. Matthew 5:29 and 30 speaks about this. If your eye causes you to sin, get rid of it.
Yeah.
Proverbs 4:15, I believe, speaks about don't even entering the path of the wicked. Stay away from it. Don't go on it. And so that principle, that very practical principle, became a part of my life. And the way that I implemented radical amputation in my life is I put a filter on the computer. I severed access to that which is leading me into sin. Now, oftentimes people would think that, well, isn't the first thing that you should do be reading the Bible or going to church or something like that? And though that is very true, and it was a crucial core part of what we teach and what set me free, it is the amputating that breaks the power or keeps us from going back.
Okay. But the amputating is the application of the Bible.
Exactly.
So the Bible did set you free.
Exactly.
Through the amputation.
Exactly. But that was a physical thing that I could do, and not necessarily a spiritual activity that I was doing by reading the Word or praying. And then I also learned about the importance of radical appropriation, or being in the Word, radically being in the Word, not just a little bit here and there, but really finding my satisfaction in learning how to feast on the Word of God.
Yeah.
And then the next point was radical accountability. Now, radical accountability, this is a tricky one. This is a difficult one for a lot of people, because what this means is that I need to tell someone else about this secret sin that has been living in my life. That means that I need to talk to my spouse.
Yeah.
I need to talk to my pastor.
Yeah.
I need to humble myself and bring that out into the light. And not only accountability wasn't only a one-time thing, but because it was radical accountability, it needed to be daily, at least for a season. And as I went through these lessons every day, I would have to answer that question. Have you been free from pornography since your last lesson? Yes or no? Were you free from self-gratification since your last lesson? Yes or no? And so on and so forth. Have you been feasting on the Word since your last lesson? So there was that accountability that was in place to ensure that I was pursuing that path, that I was going down that road.
Wow. If someone wants to get delivered like you were, and they're interested in this website, now what are the steps that they need to do in order to become a member of these courses? Like,
Sure. Go to settingcaptivesfree.com,
Yeah.
and you will see a whole host of courses. We have a number of courses. You want me to touch on what those are?
Sure. Well, I'd be curious because if, just like you, when you first got on there, what were you led or directed to do right away?
Sure. How does that process work?
Yeah.
Well, what you'll see is a number of little banner links on the homepage of Setting Captives Free.
Right.
And one will say freedom from overeating, freedom from smoking, freedom from drinking. Are you struggling with pornography? Are you ensnared with homosexuality? And you will have the opportunity to choose whichever course it is that you feel best meets the needs that you have.
Right.
And then what you would do is you would enroll in that course for free. We don't charge a fee for it.
Yeah.
That has been the desire of Mike and Jody Cleveland from the beginning, that we would not charge a fee for this, and because it's so different than what the world would do. The world would say, you pay and then we'll give you a little bit of help. When the money runs out, you need to hit the street.
Right.
And that's not what God does.
Yeah.
And we freely give as we have freely received.
So someone has a bondage, they'll go to your website. Let's say they choose pornography as something they want to get delivered from. What do they do there? How does this begin?
Okay. What they will do is they will come back every day and they will log into that particular course, because they'll enroll and they'll have a username and a password.
Okay.
And then they'll come back every day to Setting Captives Free and they'll go through a lesson. Most of the courses are set up to have 60 lessons that people will go through.
Okay.
And they will each one will teach a little bit different principle. I mean, you can't give it all at once. It's just a gradual feeding that people would sit underneath the teachings of as they learn different aspects. So one lesson might be about the importance of amputation. The next one might be the importance of confession. The next one, the importance of
So
being accountable to your local
they're
church.
taken step by step through the things they need to do radically to be changed.
Yes. And at the same time, they're also paired up with a mentor. This is one of the unique aspects of Setting Captives Free, is that, and here's where that encouragement comes in. When they go through these Bible study lessons, it's not just a presentation of information and then you just figure it out on your own. There are those Bible study lessons, but what happens is as people go through the lessons, they learn the teaching, and then there are questions that are asked just to make sure that they're understanding the application of the passage. Those answers will be sent into a mentor that they were randomly assigned of the same gender. But they will be sent to that mentor, and that mentor will read those lessons, will pray for that person, and will also be there to answer questions that come up. And one of the first questions that come up, I mean, in my own life, those first hours, those first moments where I truly had turned my back on sin. I knew that I was done with it. The devil was very angry, and he threw everything at me that he could.
Wow.
And that was probably about 8 years ago, and I still remember the vileness of the thoughts that I had. I mean, things that I wouldn't even begin to think of on my own.
Yeah.
It had to have been from the enemy.
Yeah.
And I literally wanted to take the life of my wife.